Pro Football Playbook, presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network. Your source for team news, draft needs, player profiles and rankings, full Senior Bowl, Combine, and NFL draft coverage. News, analysis, discussion. It's in the playbook. Now, here is your host, sports journalist Bill Alvstad, and featured analyst Keith Myers. Hey everybody, welcome into the Pro Football Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with Keith Myers. He's over that way this time, and and I'm right here, and that's just the way it is. So Keith is taking over, and you're going to run this show from now on.
Sounds good to me. No, okay. We switched sides for reasons that don't matter or make any sense. Yeah. So it's a one-time thing. So anyway, so today we are here to talk about defensive backs in the NFL draft. So this is safeties and corners, and both free and strong safety. So lots and lots of players to consider and think about, talk about. And interestingly, where they rank, it depends extremely on what scheme your team runs. Because if your team runs a cover two, it's very different than if they play man, or if they play a cover three, right? And so we're gonna rank guys, but those rankings can be very mixed up if your team.
Yeah, I think runs rather than ranking guys, scheme. Let's just talk about guys and talk about kind of what they do well, where they fit. Okay. We're going to go through free safeties. We're going to try to, there's a few hybrid guys that can play both free and strong. We'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about corners. There's all sorts of corners. There's, the slot nickel guys. There's the outside press guys. There's the zone guys. And they all do something really, unique and special, and teams value those things for different reasons. So that's why the boards look one way and people get drafted in completely other ways, depending on where you're going to go and all that stuff. So, this is a fun time of the year for us, though, because now college football is completely over. All the evaluation stuff starts happening now. So we've gone through, if you're catching this show and this is the first time you've seen us, we've actually gone through every position group. We're down to the final one. Unless we talk about it differently, we're not going to do like kickers, special teams, etc. We usually leave that out, but all the position groups, and now we're down to defensive backs, and we kind of combine the safeties and the corners this year. But the cool thing is now we get to move on to the bowl games and those evaluations and
senior. When he says bowl
senior
games,
bowl.
I went senior bowl, East West Shrine game. Those kinds
essentially of all-star games.
Yeah, they're the pre combine games where, okay, sure, there's a game on Saturday and it's televised, but the bulk of the work, the bulk of the scouting, the bulk of where we're going to learn stuff, it happens during the week, during practice, and that's really where you learn everything about what's going on. So
that's where I learned last year that Quinn Miners could cut off his shirt and show up and just be this like really big guy and make a name for yourself out there by just throwing the potentially high defensive draft picks on the ground left and right. And all of a sudden your name is being talked about all over the place. That's just sort of stories can happen, smaller school guys that really don't have a lot of tape or unfamiliar with the, with kind of, the level of scouting where some of our listeners are at, guys that are just doing this for fun out there as a hobby, trying to gather though as much information as they can to have a fun time with it and do some great mock drafts, all that kind of stuff. Guys like Quinn Miners, you never even heard of before the Senior Bowl. All of a sudden he shows up. He's like, the biggest deal, and you want him on your team for sure. So it's a fun process. And then of course the combine, all that stuff. So all our shows from now on are basically going to be kind of moving in that direction.
Yeah, well, we're also going to talk about NFL teams because we're going to look at team needs, where they're at, where they're going.
Yes,
trying to help us and you guys get a better feel for what these teams might do when the draft rolls around. Yeah. Of course, that's all dependent on free agency, which is also coming up. So
true, and you tie that in with all the coaching changes that are happening. On at least 9 teams now going to end up with new coaching regimes. Offense, defensive coordinators are changing, all that stuff. So team needs kind of shift slightly compared to where they're at today versus where they'll be at come, a month or two from now. So all that.
Of the coaches that have been hired, because there's been, I think, 3 so far, is there a favorite pairing of team and coach that you have?
Interesting. I mean, I really do like what the Broncos are doing. I like what the Broncos are doing prior to the change, and then with the change now, and then Nathaniel Hackett there. What's not to like about that? Obviously, under Matt LaFleur and Green Bay, that's been a fun offense to watch. Obviously, and I think he's ready. He's a younger guy. He went through the interview process last year with a few teams, and then this year he was able to get that job. So I'm curious to find out exactly what happens there. I don't know.
I'm very curious what they do at quarterback, because
now that's the big question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously
it's easy to look good as an offensive coordinator when you got Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but I think that he definitely doesn't want to go through a rebuild in Green Bay, and it looks like it's moving in that direction, but it's really hard to tell right now. Mm-hmm. And it really does kind of depend on what he's going to do, Yeah,
because if they decide, we're going to tear this down, we're going to rebuild because everyone's old, we got too many free agents, all of that,
and they're $40 million under the water on the salary cap.
Yeah, their salary cap situation is terrible. They could very easily be like, all right, so we need to move on. We need to get young. Let's trade Aaron Rodgers and free up a bunch of money and all of that. And where would he go? Oh yeah, guess what? Denver is interested in trading first round picks for
it. Just kind of everything falls in place for Denver and falls apart for Green Bay.
How good would the AFC West be?
And how much different would the NFC now look to some of the NFC teams that are just right there on the bubble waiting for Green Bay to go away?
Well, you got Green Bay, which is going to go away, and you got New Orleans, which is probably going to stop being a contender.
The landscape changes all of a sudden, big time.
Yeah, and Tom Brady's talking about possibly retiring, so that would take Tampa off.
And you saw Seattle diminishing this last year. What's going to happen there? Are they going to get better? Or are they going to get worse?
Yeah, I mean, the whole landscape in the NFC could be very different next year than from what it's been, for the last decade. I can tell you, I don't think the Rams are going anywhere. That team looks really good right now.
Yeah, and I fought you in the
draft picks
in the preseason. I kind of fought with you about how good the Rams were going to be with Matthew Stafford, and you could make the argument that they were going to be really improved, and Jared Goff was gone. That was a plus by way of getting rid of him. Just that move, and they turned out to be really good, and they kind of rallied around Stafford and had a little bump in the road, or in the middle of the season, like a lot of teams seem to do, but they came back around, and they look like the team that's probably going to take the NFC West championship, or not the West, but the NFC championship,
the entire NFC,
and go to the Super Bowl.
It is an NFC West championship game.
True, it is true. It's true
because they're playing San Francisco, which is in their division, and then Arizona was also in. 3 teams. So
yeah.
Anyways,
right,
that's not what the show's about. Today's show is about defensive backs. So let's talk about defensive backs.
Let's do it. So I was just going to start. Let's just start at the top. We kind of go back and forth if you want and make it a little bit more interesting. We can talk about free safeties and strong safeties and corners and just kind of.
Do you have a favorite?
Blend them all up.
Do you have a favorite player?
I do actually. In fact, he's my favorite player in the whole draft, to be completely honest. And that would be Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. He's just a special player. I think he translates really, really well into the NFL because he's not scheme dependent. He's not a scheme dependent player. So whoever gets him is going to be have a player. They're going to have a weapon, what you would call a defensive weapon.
He is 6'4", 220, which is what you think of as a strong safety who can play in the box and
or a rush side linebacker, smaller side,
and wants to kill people, but he's got the range, speed, and instincts of a free safety. That is special.
See, this is a guy with Jamal. Think of Jamal Adams. This is a guy with Jamal Adams' brain, the way that Jamal Adams wants to play football, right? But this guy does not have Jamal Adams' body. This guy has a much more well-suited body for the kind of punishment that Jamal Adams wants to inflict on the NFL. This guy's able to do it and stay healthy, and you can move him all over the place. You mentioned free safety. He could be a free safety. He could be in a cover 2 free safety. I think. I don't know if he's going to be a single high guy. Maybe he could do that too. I wouldn't put it past him, but he could definitely be in a tandem situation on a 2 high defense. And then he's obviously a strong safety body, a guy that just has really good instincts close to the line of scrimmage, can go sideline to sideline. He can sniff your play out, call out the defense. He could be a captain. He's the guy that's going to be able to shut down the run on one side of the line of scrimmage. He's going to rush the passer for you. He could play some strong side stuff and cover tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. No problem. He's going to shut those guys down. He could play a little bit of nickel for you if you wanted to and cover slot guys. It wouldn't surprise me. He's probably a great blitzer too. I didn't see a lot of that out of Notre Dame this year. Amy had a little bit of that, but he's just all over the place for them. I think he's going to be all over the place for an NFL team. He's just my favorite player. I think he's just one of those guys that I think he's going to be just an excellent pro in the NFL.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Budda Baker, who came out of Washington and plays for Arizona. And he's their free safety, but he also covers in the slot and does everything. And he's pretty much a Swiss Army knife player that can do anything you want him to do. And then some, and seems to do multiple things on every play. Except for he's bigger, he's stronger. He's built, more like an NFL player in terms of his overall size. So he's got all of that versatility that Budda Baker
What do you think about the comp, like on Tyrion Matthew, somebody like that?
Same idea, same type of player. I just think Budda Baker's a better player. That's why I said him instead of Matthew. But it's similar. Like they're the Swiss Army knife guys. They do everything. And
where do you think this guy ends up? Where do you think this guy ends up as far as position? Taking the most snaps in the NFL. Obviously, it depends on where he lands, but. He's likely to land in, with one of the New York teams, just based on the idea that they've got 4 picks in the first,
in the first 10.
In the first 10. And so it's like, but if he ends up with Salah with the Jets, that could be a really nice situation for them. But they already have their strong safety, so that he'd have to kind of move around a little bit for them.
Yeah, but he'd be a free safety, but he would move around and he would do all sorts of things, and he would allow them to they'd have 2 elite safeties that could just do whatever you wanted them to do and really confuse and make life hard for offenses. That would be a really interesting draft pick. Now, if you were a Jets fan and you saw them take a safety at at the 4th overall pick, and you're like, wait, we don't have talent anywhere on the offensive side of the ball, and we're taking a safety at the, you're probably not going to be real happy with that pick, but it would do a lot of fun stuff. With that defense would be.
So where do you see him? Where do you see? I know I'm not thinking of. We don't have lists of draft pick orders or whatever, but where do you see him going in the draft as far as the number? How far does he fall because he's a safety?
7. Where's the Giants' first pick?
I think it's 4, but I got it.
No, okay. Where's their second pick then? I think it's 9. And that's where I see him going. Or the Jets at 7, I think is where they're at. So you've got the range.
Let me see here. Hold on.
But anyways, that's the range I see him going, is maybe not top 5, but in the second 5, right? Between 5 and 10.
So you've got the Panthers, Lions, Texans, Jets at 4, New York Giants at 5, Panthers at 6, New York Giants at 7, and then you've got Atlanta. Atlanta would be interesting. I think, at 8, and then Broncos at 9. What are they going to do at quarterback? That might be their pick. And the Jets again at 10. So, yeah, interesting. I mean, I definitely think he's a top 10 pick, but I don't think he gets past Atlanta at 8.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's in that range. He's going to be 6 to 10, because I just think that he is too valuable. He's a guy that tilts the field.
Yes, that's a great term.
He's a guy that he makes everyone on defense around him better. He's a special player, in my opinion, and I just think he doesn't fall that far, even though he's a safety and that's not a high value position.
So was he your favorite as well?
No.
Oh, what? Really?
No.
Who do you got?
I've got a guy who's actually down the list a bit.
Is he a safety or a corner?
Well, I thought we were talking safeties, but so Michigan free safety Daxton Hill, because this guy can run in the 4.2 range. He'll probably be the fastest guy at the combine.
What? 4.2?
Yeah,
like 4.20?
4.24. Is
4.24 still blistering, dude? Would that set a record for defensive backs?
No, because Dante Hall technically was a defensive back at that point.
Wow.
But it would be close. This is a guy who ran a 4.30 out of high school before he went to college. Now he runs, he's estimated at a 4.24. We'll see what he actually runs. But 6 foot, 192. He's more of a traditional free safety with the speed that is absolutely unheard of.
So if he shows up on tape as good as he tests and all that kind of stuff, I mean, that could be a difference maker on a team. I mean, that sort of speed, running a single high, or even you put him in the convergence, at cover 2, that would be a guy that you would love to have on your team. I mean, plus he could return kicks for you.
The cover 1 or cover 3, or he's the middle guy in a cover 3, or cover 1, which just means what you were saying, a single high safety. His ability to cover ground and get everywhere is incredible. The one concern is he's missed a few tackles. And so it's like, okay, it's great that he can get there to make a play, but if he misses the tackle, what was the, what I mean? Like, did it matter that he had the speed to get there? I think he's one of those guys that he needs, more coaching, more experience, all that kind of stuff.
But everyone's going to fall in love with him at the combine, because he was the
coach that speed.
He was the top spark guy in the 2019 incoming freshman class.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd want to translate that into the combine. This guy's going to be the top tester at the combine. That's what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be.
So he's going to have a 40-inch vertical. He's going to have an 11-foot broad jump.
He had a 43-inch vertical as a high schooler.
What? No way.
As a high schooler, he had a 43-inch
I didn't even know that.
vertical.
I just pulled 40 inches out. I didn't even know that. That's crazy. 43 inches is crazy for a guy that's 6 foot, 189. Right?
That's the athlete this kid is, and honestly,
that guy could dunk a basketball.
Yes,
easy.
Most of these players can dunk a basketball.
Well, sure, but I mean, I'm talking this guy's above the rim. I mean,
absolutely,
this guy can play above the rim, so this guy could cover, guys, that have 4 inches on him.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, interesting.
That kind of athleticism is special. It's okay. Everyone in the NFL is a fantastic athlete compared to idiots like me. But Daxton Hill is a special athlete among NFL athletes, and that's why he's my favorite. Is he the best player in this draft? I don't think so, but he's my favorite, and that's all you asked.
Well, I'll give you another player, and I'm just going to go back and forth because we have a long list and it's a short show.
Yeah, it is.
So I want to talk about Daryl Stingley Jr. out of LSU as my top corner in this draft, because here's another guy. You talk about speed. Here's another guy that can take it off at, running sub 4.3.
Sub 4.3. And honestly, at 6'1", 195 with that speed, there isn't a team in the NFL that wouldn't love him.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't care what scheme you run. He will work for you.
Yeah, if you're a team that's in the top 10 or close to the top 10 and you're needing a corner, a shutdown corner, a guy that can press, a guy that can play zone, a guy that can do it all for you, and you've got the pick that you're going to spend on a corner, this is your guy. I mean, you're going to go get him going. That's a good question. Where could he go?
I'm telling
you, he could go to the Jets. He could go to the Jets.
That would be
so he could come off at 4, I think.
Or at 10.
Yeah, he could go to Atlanta. He could go to he could go at 4 or 10. You're right, with the Jets. They've got both picks.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings.
Atlanta is probably where
you've got the Eagles that have got 3 picks there at 15, 16, and 19. You could definitely, if you're not going to trade back out of one of those picks, you could definitely.
I don't know if he gets past Minnesota at 12.
Don't. Yeah, he's more of a top 10-ish guy, right?
Yeah.
And so any of those guys. So if you were the Eagles, you could use one of those picks to kind of move up, but the price would be steep to move even from 15 to 10 or whatever it would be. It would cost you your second rounder at least, if not a second and third. And I don't know if that'd be worth it. But
trade 2 of your first round picks to the Jets
move
up to 10.
I tell you what might be interesting is if the Broncos solved their quarterback problem before the draft, the Broncos at 9 would make a lot of sense.
That would be fun. I'd want to see that. Make that happen. I don't know what you got to do. That would be a fun combination, is to get him in that defense. That defense is already solid. And oh man, they have
the best one of the best safeties in the NFL, one of the best corners. It'd be hard to get past those guys. Okay. So moving around again, how about Jaquan Brisker, the free safety out of Penn State, 6'1", 200 pounds. A lot of folks are calling him a strong safety. Some are calling him a free safety.
You have him as a free. I have him as a strong safety.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. He's one of those guys that I was going to talk to you about that. I'm not sure that he's completely pegged yet. And I just kind of wanted to get an idea from you as to what you think.
I've got him as a strong safety because I think he can do a lot of things. He can cover in man coverage against tight ends and running backs and be a guy that can work in zones and he can do more stuff than a free safety typically does. And that's why I've got him as a strong safety. But you know what? At a guy that runs a 4.48, he's got the
and if he tests lower than that, if he can get down into the 4.2 range, or not 4.2, but 4.42.
If he gets down to the 4.2 range,
right.
He might just be like the 4th overall pick or something.
Right. But if he can get close to the 4.4, 4.42,
in that range,
that would be interesting.
That's going to help him a lot. He's very scheme diverse. He can do so many good things well.
He's got long arms too, big hands. He's a jumper, leaper, athletic guy. That's why I thought they might look at him as a free safety in the NFL because of that athleticism and so forth. It just kind of jumps off. And with the speed and the coverage skills, somebody may look at him as a scheme diverse guy that might play him up, on occasion, but would also drop him back in a cover 2 scheme.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I was going to, if you're going to talk with all of this, Kair Elam, at a cornerback out of Florida, 6'2", runs a 4.47, so he runs about the same speed as Brisker. He's taller, he's longer, not just because he's taller, but he's actually just got longer arms. And you put that at cornerback. There are teams that are going to covet him with that length. And especially if you watched his tape and his ability to start, stop.
Some people that have been around the NFL for a while may recognize the name Elam. And he was the nephew of former Ravens 2013 first round pick safety Matt Elam, and his father Abram Elam played safety at Notre Dame in Kent State. So
not related to former kicker Jason Elam.
Yes. Thanks for pointing that out, Keith. Yes, that would be an important distinction. So I mean, a guy like that, I've got a couple of names. That's a couple of later kind of in the draft names that are like 5th round that I'm just curious as to what you think. The Jalen Watson, Washington State guy who played a little bit of safety in college, a little bit of corner, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm thinking that the NFL may look at this guy as being a cover press corner at 6'3", 204. And I just kind of wanted to see.
I want to see what he tests. His tape's actually pretty dang good. And I know that, you look at that program and you're like, I don't know, because they're not known for that and everything. But I want to see how he tests, because I think if he tests decently in the speed department, I think he moves up. I don't think he drops that far. Because so
you're thinking 3rd, 4th round kind of a grade on him then maybe.
Yeah. Because he can do so many different things. He's one of those guys that's scheme diverse. He can play outside corner. I don't think he can play in the slot, but he can play as your outside corner. And even if he's your 3rd best corner, he comes in as a nickel, but he plays on the outside and somebody else slides in. You can line him up at strong safety if you need him. You can line him up at free safety if you need him to. If he tests well enough that he, as far as his speed, if he doesn't, he could fall a long way down. But if he shows, reasonable speed, I think he's going to go higher than where you were saying.
Interesting. So one more name that I just find interesting is Storm Duck.
That is an awesome name.
The defensive back out of North Carolina. It is an awesome name. And the really interesting thing about this guy, Keith, is he's 6'5", 205, but he runs a 4.3 440. 4.3 440 at 6'5", 205. I just kind of want to see what he looks like. Like as
where do you put
can
him?
He cover? Does he a press guy? All that kind of stuff.
Where do you line him up? Because at 6'5", he's not changing direction with those 5'10" receivers.
Well, I think I think that he's a rotational press cover guy. You bring him in, when you want to run your press scheme. And
who would love him is all of the cover 3 teams. The San Franciscos, the Atlantas, the Raiders ran a lot of cover 3 this year. Because then he's up at the line of scrimmage, he's in press.
The Monte Kiffin tree.
Yes.
Teams.
His role is to be at the line of scrimmage, press the receiver, but still also cover the deep third and not get beat deep.
Sounds like Richard Sherman.
That's exactly who I was thinking of, because he's got the speed to do that. He's got the length to make life just miserable for quarterbacks trying to fit the ball in, because it just makes the smallest, shortest windows. Accuracy becomes key. And I think he would be a guy that, man, he's going to get looks from those teams that run a lot of cover 3, because at that length with that speed, great combination.
Depending on how he looks and how he tests in the skills. Let's see, what is he? He's a sophomore. So has he declared? I can't remember if he's declared or not. And if not, it's too late, right? They should have declared by now. So I didn't know for sure, and so I just wanted to mention him though, because if he did come out, then he's a name to watch. Because if he does tests, he's going to rise.
Yeah.
So
another guy that I like in that same exact role in the cover 3 one is Ahmed Gardner out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite corners in this draft.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that the draft pundits online are very mixed on. Some people have him ranked really high. Some people are not sold on him at all.
That's because he takes chances, and everyone wants a safe corner, and he's a guy that's really aggressive.
He is, and that's why he's a guy I like. I like a guy that takes chances, goes for the ball.
I do too.
It can be a ball hawk.
Not all the time. I mean, you got to pick your spots, but yeah.
I like a cornerback like that, and that length at 6'3". And he's not the fastest guy as a 4.50, but he's fast enough.
Plenty enough with that if you're going to be a press guy, depending on the technique you run and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Those guys can get away with stuff like that if they're strong enough, and he has plenty of that. If you watch Cincinnati play,
it depends on the technique that the team is asking him to run. Because if they're asking him to, him to soft shoe,
he's not as great, right?
Yep.
And if they're asking him to do a drop kick or something like that with a shove, then
the kick step version of he's going to be great at. But if you're asking him to soft shoe, I think you're asking him to do something that's going to be outside of his skill set, and he's going to get beat, and that would be unfortunate for him and for you. I mean, let the guy do what he does best, right?
There's so many guys. There's so many guys on this list. We probably should have split this up into a couple of shows to be fair, for these guys. But there's a ton here. I mean, we're talking. For me, I think there's, the top 15 corners in this draft will get you into the middle to the end of the third round. Like there's a lot of corners, and then after that, there's just a lot of really nice depth, or guys that are going to fill specific roles, and a lot of special teams guys. So there's value to be had in rounds 4, 5, and 6 in this draft, just on the corners. Then we add in the safeties, the free safeties, and the strong safeties. Particularly the strong safety group, you're going to get some athletic players that are going to be available later in this draft, or undrafted guys, I think, that are going to be able to come in and make your team help out.
Yeah.
So a lot of speed in this draft.
So you mentioned Storm Duck is a great name. I got another amazing name for you.
Okay.
Smoke Monday.
Yes.
Safety out of Auburn.
Yeah, he wasn't on my list, but I've seen him around a little bit. I haven't looked at him play. So I don't know if he lives up to that name, but
I have no notes on him whatsoever, other than that I have his name written down entirely because it's Smoke Monday.
Nice. Yeah, it is Smoke Monday on Mondays. Some days, even if you don't smoke, it's some Mondays are like that.
Especially depending on how your Sunday went. Right?
Exactly. So anyway, I think we could keep going for a long time. And what I would suggest is
every Monday is Smoke Monday if you're in Jacksonville.
Smoke them if you got them. So Smoke Monday. Yeah. So we could have this conversation and it could just keep going for a while, because there's tons of guys to talk about. Guys that are going to go in the first, second, and third round we didn't even mention. Like Roger McCreary out of Auburn, and Trent McDuffie
out of Washington.
Andrew Booth out of Clemson is probably the second or third ranked corner in this draft, on some sites.
I really like Trent McDuffie. I know 5'11" is not going to excite people because today's NFL, that 6'1", 6'2" length is kind of coveted. 5'11" is not going to do it, but 4'4", a guy can run, is really sticky in coverage. His ability to stay with some of the best receivers in the country and not get shook.
So that doesn't make him an automatic slot guy in the NFL when teams look at him.
I don't think he has to be. I think he can do anything. I think he's a guy that I didn't expect to like when I went in and started researching and watching guys. And some of that has to do with the school that he plays for and the school that I went to, and some sort of rivalry. But a part is that I don't remember him being special watching him play, like watching the team play when I wasn't watching him. Right. But now you start watching tape on him and you're like, okay, this defense gave up a lot of points, and quarterbacks did not throw at him. They went everywhere else. And that says a lot. Like, he was a good player on a bad team.
The other player that I'll give note to, and then we'll get out of here, is Nick Cross out of Maryland. I would be remiss if I didn't mention him because he's kind of the poor man's Kyle Hamilton in this draft. Kyle Hamilton, 6'4", 220. There's really no comparison to that. But Nick Cross is 6'1", 215. But he's going to be able to play in the NFL at free safety, at strong safety, at will linebacker. You're going to be able to move him around quite a bit in your defense. And he's probably going to end up getting better over time. So I just, he's going to be a guy that's, for me, borderline first, second round grade.
Wow. You think he's going to go that high? Well, it really depends.
If a team values a kind of a weapon and they really could kind of, that's their piece that they're kind of missing and think that he can help them. Yeah. I think a team could go up that high and get him, especially if they saw him as a guy that could fit their scheme in a too high look, because I think he could be that second safety for you if he was a drop back into coverage. He's got the speed to do it. So,
the one thing he's missing though is a cool name like Storm Duck.
It's true. Absolutely. You can legally change your name in most states.
It's true. It's true.
It'd be to the advantage of some of these players with boring names like Nick Cross to go in and do that. Just for social media. The marketing is an important aspect of the NFL.
And everyone listening to us, stop.
What were their parents thinking when they named their kid Nick? Come on, parents, step up your game.
You could have named him Storm Duck, or
Storm Duck was probably
or Smoke Monday.
That'd be funny if you had to go out and choose your children's name based on availability. It's like you pick your social names.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wanted to pick Storm Duck, but Nick Cross was the only name left when I had to choose. So.
Yep.
That'd be horrible. All right, enough.
This conversation has gone completely off the rails, and I'm here for all of it. Like, this is awesome.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna get out of here. All right. Follow Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. I'm at Alvstad NFL. The show is PF_Playbook on Twitter. You can find us on our own website. We've got all the shows up there. We've got information about us. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform. We're out there now on pretty much everything. Yeah.
Everything.
And then YouTube. Find us on our YouTube channel and subscribe. We need subscribers on there. That would be great. So until next time, take care, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Pro Football Playbook Podcast. Follow Keith at Myers NFL. Bill is at Alvstad NFL. The show is at PF_Playbook. Listen and subscribe on your favorite podcast app or YouTube and at our website, profootballplaybook.co.